everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Donna Carrick, the host of Dead to Rights, the podcast, and I'm here on behalf of the Mesdames of Mayhem to bring you Melodie Campbell, author of the Goddaughter mystery series and many, many more, which she'll be able to tell you a little bit about today. But for today, we're going to talk about Melodie's story titled The Kindred Spirits Detective Agency, which is going to appear in the Spirit of 13, coming this fall 2022. Hi, Melodie. How are you?
Just great, Donna.
It's really, really good to see you, my friend. I've missed you through this pandemic just terribly.
Oh, me too. Me too.
So tell us about your story, the Kindred Spirits Detective Agency, if I can spit that mouthful out.
Well, just by coincidence, about 3 years ago, I started writing a series that takes place in the 1920s. And I just think, how absolutely fabulous this is, because I don't have to worry about COVID. At the time, COVID wasn't even a thought. But, to have a historical novel, that's what to be writing right now. Because what do you do about COVID? Do you include it? Is it never over? Anyway, so it was 1920s. It was the series. The first book comes out with Cormorant Books in hopefully winter. It's supposed to be out in November, but I think it's going to be delayed because of paper shortages. And it's called The Merry Widow Murders. At the same time, I came up with this idea for a series that would take place also starting in the 1920s. If you're going to do the research for the 1920s, you might as well use it as much as you can, because it's so much work doing the research.
Yes.
So I had the idea of a car collision of two people in the 1920s. Again, another mob reference. This is a daughter of the mob who gets into a car accident, with her beautiful, I think it's going to be a DeSoto, but something like from about 1927. She gets into a car accident with a cop.
Okay.
They're both killed and turn out to be ghosts and get together and form a detective agency.
I love it.
So I pitched both of these to my agent and then to the publisher, and they picked The Merry Widow Murders. It was complete, so that's coming out. And she said, "What else have you got?" And so I pitched this idea to her as well, and she said, "Okay, let me see it." So I started writing it, and it looks like it'll be a 2-book deal for at least for the Merry Widow Murders. So Kindred Spirits, I was thinking, what can I do with this in the meantime? Because I don't know when this would ever come out, because I have to write this other series in between. And I thought, maybe I could do a series of short stories.
Yes.
And so that's what I did. Is I launched in the future, and the two protagonists have started their detective agency. They are ghosts. They're on a case in this one here.
Okay, excellent. I love the opening of it. I really do, because, with a short story, especially, you have a real penchant for the shorts. This one's just under 2,000 words. You've got to get it in there fairly quickly, but you also want it to be a surprise. And I think in something like 4 paragraphs, you go from us not knowing that they're dead to suddenly knowing that they're dead. And it's just a glorious revelation. Like it's not worked into it in any way. It's just there. It just appears, and it's really well done. I loved it. I thought it was very clever.
Well, thank you, Donna. I worked on that. I had to figure out how to get the story across quickly, the setting across quickly. Definitely in the novel part, of course, I show the accident and everything happening, but that's backstory at this point. So yeah, spitting it out quickly.
Exactly. Going from 0 to 60 in crash seconds.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to make it fun. That was the other thing. I recently the short stories that I'd written had been quite dismal.
Well,
very grim and noirish. And I wanted to go back to having fun with it, so I could work humor into it again.
Yes.
So the mob always provides me with that.
Yes, I know. Funnily enough, if you are familiar with Melodie Campbell's work, you'll know that that's quite true. The mob really does bring us some chuckles. Give us a few of your titles, not just The Goddaughter, but you had a couple of other very clever ones about criminals. You had a
Uh,
granny cat burglar, for example.
yeah, the B Team, I think, is
Yes,
one that
yes.
I hope will be a series, but you just never know in this game, as you know. But the B Team was a spin-off from the Goddaughter series. It was yet a team of mainly women vigilantes who were associated with the mob that went around trying to put things right, trying to,
Mhm.
in some cases, with scams with elderly, putting them right, because of course they had all the tools to do so. And
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and
Well,
that
the
was a
B
lot of
Team was just a crystalline short novella, and
fun.
it absolutely just brought the humor. It really brought it. So I think anybody
Oh,
would enjoy
thank you,
reading
Donna.
that.
Yeah.
The other one that always sticks in my mind is tell me if I get something wrong. Nico the
Oh, it's
rearranger,
the
the lone rearranger. That was it. I
yes,
love
yes,
that.
yes. That's in the Goddaughter's Revenge.
Yes.
And that's the second in the series. It introduced Nico, who is a metrosexual out of Hamilton. So if you can imagine a contrast, Lunchbox Hamilton having this
Hmm.
fellow who dyes his hair, blondie blonde, and wears eyeshadow while doing break and enters. So
Yes.
that was a great fun one, and he was an aspiring interior decorator. So yeah, that was the big catch with that, is he would break into homes and be disgusted with the great rooms and living rooms and rearrange them all
Yes,
and
yes. So
discard
they coined the
things.
phrase
Yeah,
the Nico the Lone Rearranger, and I just love
yes.
that. That just made me roar. So
Oh, I'm glad. He,
yeah.
that's one of those characters that I think I will have to come back to, because I can't believe he's not real.
I
How is he
know.
not just over the border in Hamilton there? I just
I'll
don't
bet
get
he
it.
is. I'll bet he is real. Maybe his name isn't Nico, but I'll bet you he is real. He's certainly lovable, and you should definitely bring him back. Tell us a little bit about your darker work, though, because I write dark. I have always written dark,
Yes.
and I was very surprised to see you take a dive to the darker. But then I wasn't really that surprised because we're friends, and so I know
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about those works.
It's funny when I saw, for instance, with the Crime Writers anthology, that it was going to be blind judging. I thought, okay, this is the time to go dark again, because people expect me. They expect me to be humorous, and when
Yes.
I'm not humorous, they're disappointed. So I
Mhm.
thought, okay, write something as dark as you go, and see, see if it's accepted. And it was, but people were very surprised. I know Linwood wrote the foreword, and he said, Melodie Campbell, who can be counted on for several laughs, takes a really dark turn in this. So I know he was surprised as well. Um, I can't stay dark for long. Uh,
No.
I can't write a really dark book. I have 17 books. None of them are really dark. Uh,
Mhm.
I find to live in a dark world for a year, that's too hard for me. I'm just not
Yes.
capable of it. But I can do it for a short period of time. So I can do it for 2 weeks.
As a writer, we revert to who we are. Once we have our voice, we keep on reverting. Now that doesn't mean that we can't stretch
Mhm,
the boundaries and try different things.
mhm.
What is the title of the story coming out in Cold Canadian Crime?
Ah, gosh, what's that one? Yeah, Death of a Ghost.
Death of a Ghost. Okay, so we'll have to look for that. That's coming out fairly soon, isn't it?
I think so. Next week, I believe. Yeah,
Next
yeah,
week.
I
Wow.
believe
Okay,
next
so
week.
May.
Yes,
We may not be airing this recording in May, so it may already be available by the time you hear this. So go
yes,
get it. It's called A Cold Canadian Crime, and it's
yes,
coming out from the Crime Writers of Canada, and it will contain Melodie's story as well. So will be
yes.
worth looking. What are you going to do next, or is it still just Buried Alive with the Merry Widow novel?
Yeah, the second book of the Merry Widow series is the silent film star murders. So again, we're back on a cruise ship or an ocean liner going across 1927, going across from England to New York. And 2 film stars are on board the ship. And silent film stars like Theda. And the protagonist, Lucy, she's one of them is murdered, and Lucy, of course, is going to solve that crime too. As it happens, Lucy is, you won't be surprised at all, Donna, is a daughter of the mob,
Yes.
who got away from the mob and married up into the aristocracy in Britain. So again, she has some skills that she can bring to detection that other people wouldn't have.
I remember when you first
fun.
told me about this series, I was really fascinated because you've got your protagonist in the beginning coming over on an ocean liner as an immigrant and trying to escape her mob connections. And I was just so fascinated with that. What independence in that time frame.
Really, when, you know, I do talk about that a lot, and Mark Cote from Cormorant Books said that's what he really liked about it, is the fact that I brought in the, you know, women getting the vote. There's a lot of lost generation. You know, Lucy loses her husband in World War I. So there's there's a bit of a deep side to that book, but again, a lot of humor as well. Yeah. And the funny thing is that that came about because Don Graves said to me, and you know Don Graves, Donna.
Oh, yes.
Canadian mystery reviewer. And he said to me, why don't you write a book about Gina Gallo's grandmother? And Gina Gallo is the protagonist of the Goddaughter series. And so I worked it back and I thought, well, it wouldn't be her grandmother, it would be her great grandmother. If you work out the timeline, you know, to go back to the 1920s. And so that's who it is. It's her great grandmother. So there's a connection between. There will.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's like a prequel.
Yes, exactly.
And you think winter it will be out.
And it was supposed to be out in November, but I know they're having trouble with the with paper, believe it, at the printers. So it will probably be out January or February.
Okay, and the title of the first book is?
The Merry Widow Murders.
Okay, look for that, everyone, really, because that's going to be well worth it. I can't wait. Melodie, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I can't wait till we release our In the Spirit of 13. And for anybody who hasn't already heard me say this, and you probably have, we are actually friends, not just colleagues, not just co-writers and things like that. We're actually friends, and we've missed each other. I've certainly missed Melodie a great deal.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It's just even good to see your face there again.
I know.
In the background of the Mesdames there.
I know. There we are. Yeah, yes, that was quite the day, wasn't it? Remember?
And we don't look a day older, do we?
No, not a bit. You notice I'm actually hidden behind myself here, so you don't get the contrast. Yeah. Thank you, Melodie.
Truly my pleasure, Donna. Thank you.
Dusty road, a man alone. His vital signs go on hold, and I don't know what you've been told, but the years have turned my eyes gold. And I told you what you told me, we'd never be in the same boat for free. Yet it rides, let it rock.